Get ready to feel
the power.
That's Colin, Crandall, myself, Adam Roorda here with another episode of MMA Power Hour. And you see my screen in the background there. Let me actually fix this, Colin. But everybody, head on over to lithtoken.io. Check us out. We're doing some really cool things. Before we went on air, I'm over here hooting and hollering because I'm running into some technical fun.
Yes. Yeah, they're not the kind of fun we want to have.
Yeah, well, it is.
Yeah, challenging, craziness. Trying to find people that are reliable with promises. That seems like 2022. It's not a premium, unfortunately, is it?
Well, it is when you have me and List Token on board.
Yes.
So they know, hey, I'm here to make sure that everybody's looking after, and that does include MMA Power Hour. So List Token is proud partner of MMA Power Hour, and like I said, head on over to lithtoken.io, see everything that's being built over there. It's pretty cool stuff. I am the blockchain architect and one of the co-founders in a lot of ways. Not one of the original faces, but next to.
Yes.
We'll call it that.
Yep.
So having a lot of fun building over there.
Good stuff. No, you're doing great stuff, man. I've been impressed from the start, and it's really a solid technology and solid group of people you have. So I'm excited to see where Lith Token will go. I definitely think it's a good idea. If people are looking to invest money, you can afford to lose because there's no guarantees. But I think Lith Token is looking like a very solid cryptocurrency investment.
Yep. And wow. So we're going to be going right into this here in about 2 minutes, it looks like. About a minute. So we will get with our first guest. We got two amazing guests tonight. We'll keep it a little, or do we have the third?
Nope, just
okay.
Two. Yep.
We did reach out to a third guest that has been on multiple times actually, and is fighting in 2 weeks.
Yep, week from Saturday.
Yep. So we will be watching that fight with a lot of anticipation, but he isn't going to be one of the guys to join us. But nonetheless, we've got two amazing fighters joining us. So.
Absolutely do. Two big UFC stars.
Everybody that wants to ask questions of our fighters when they jump in here with us, go ahead and drop us a tip on the Hannibal TV on YouTube, and we will do what we can to ask the question. If it's we'll call it family-friendly questions or appropriate questions.
Yes.
If not, sometimes may be willing. I doubt it for these two fighters. Just because it's personality dependent, and we want to be respectful of them and where they come from.
So you got crazy, weird, bizarre questions. It's going to depend which fighter's on, and if we know they got a good sense of humor and they're not someone who is like a regular churchgoer, we don't want to offend anyone. And so try to ask good, clean questions and have some good, clean fun. Besides, these fighters deserve a lot of respect. I know a lot of them are young guys and have a great sense of humor, but disrespecting someone that's doing something really hard for a living and grinding, we'll never do that. That's just that. So,
right.
Yep. And what do we got? We got some people jumping in, and absolutely. And I know Feel the Power. That would be Mark, Facebook user, because he's commenting through Facebook and it's doing some sort of relay through YouTube. So that is Mark. Feel the Power.
Might be other man. It might be our other man too. That's always hopping in.
It could be, but I think I'm betting Mark, and I know Mark has been supporting like crazy. I really appreciate you, Mark.
Yep.
All right.
And Harold, we're gonna keep rocking as much as we can here. You guys are the best. We love all the support. Make sure to give us likes, comments, shares over on our own Facebook. We do have a Facebook group, MMA Power Hour. Join it, get involved, share news whenever you see it. We don't catch everything. We want to stay up to date as much as possible, though. And Colin, let's see here. I think we're ready for our first guest.
Let's do it.
There it is.
Skype dance. Benil, can you hear me? Let's try again. Benil, can you hear me? Perfect. Can you hear me, brother?
Hello?
Yep. Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, you guys are a little bit muffled or muzzled or whatever you want.
Are we okay? I'm going to try to adjust my earpiece here. And okay, so yeah, this might be as good as it can get, but can you at least hear me pretty well?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Excellent. I appreciate it. Let me give you a proper intro, just like we always do to all our guests. Much respect to you, ladies and gentlemen. Happy to have this next guest back on the show. And we've been believing in him since 2018. So grateful to have him back on the show. I believe you should be maybe number 2, but I guess depending where you look, you're number 3 or number 2 contender in the UFC lightweight division, Mr. Benil Darius. Welcome back to the show, my friend.
Hey, thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. Really appreciate it, man. It's been a treat watching you keep on winning year after year after year. I think we either talked to you first when you were on either a 1-fight win streak or a 2-fight win streak. I forget which it was, but I know it was one of those. And you were always awesome in coming on and talking to us. And I don't think there was a single appearance that you missed or were late. So you're a first-class guy. And I know you're a family man, a religious guy, and that also takes care of people, your charity. I remember when you started that. And just a huge respect for you as a person. I like to see a guy like you succeeding. It's not always true that the nice guy finishes last, is it?
Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate all that.
You're welcome. My pleasure. So you got a good fight coming up here with Mateusz Gamrot. And I know that you had things scheduled with Islam and you had to deal with an injury. And I know that most of us were hoping that was going to be the next fight, but it is what it is. The bottom line is it looks like the same night in Abu Dhabi, it's going to be kind of like a semifinals with your fight with Gamrot and then Islam and Charles. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm bummed about the injury. You know, I broke my fibula 10 days before the fight, and it is what it is. Just now, we got rescheduled. The only opponent I can get was Mateusz Gamrot, and so we jumped on it. We took this fight.
Absolutely, and I really have to believe that the winner is going to fight the winner from that night. The winner of your fight will fight the winner of Islam and Charles, and then that would be for the title. It's interesting how Charles lost the title on missing weight, and I don't know if you were. I'm sure you probably watch every event that has your competitors in it, but remember that event where a lot of fighters were saying the scale was off, something was wrong, because not only was Charles heavy, but I think several people were heavy or were surprised how much they barely made it by. Have you ever seen a situation like that? I think the general MMA fan doesn't understand, but apparently stuff like that can happen with scales. Have you been aware of that? Is that something you guys are told to prepare for, or what's your thought on that?
So yeah, kind of. For example, the last time I competed against Tony Ferguson, for the UFC scales, they have these digital scales that are very accurate. I got on the scale and it said 156, so I was good to go.
Mm-hmm.
I went on the athletics commission scale. It's done with the weight, with the small weights. And
yeah, really old-fashioned, the old school scale. Yeah.
It's an old school scale, and they did it with this, and I was 0.2 or 0.3 over, so I had to go back and cut more weight. And I don't know. Sometimes the one in charge, it can be either incompetent or dramatic. It just there's a lot that goes into it. A digital scale would be a lot better, especially if the UFC provided it, because the UFC, I mean, their scales are very good.
Yeah, it would make sense, and you would hope that that would happen. You know, and usually, because the scale is usually not too much an issue. The last thing I remember, and it was funny, I didn't even get a chance to read the article. I think I was running somewhere. But I remember a couple years ago where Daniel Cormier was leaning on a towel and made weight. And apparently now that he's retired, he came out and said something like, here's the old towel trick as far as making weight. But I believe they've kind of removed that now from a possibility. It seems like now you got kind of the standing box or something, don't you?
Yeah, the towels trick's been done a few times. I think I actually think Hamza did it in Abu Dhabi when he fought Jing Ling or Jing
Ling. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he did it against the Leech. So it's not the you know, it's not an uncommon trick.
Yeah.
I know lots of people who've used this trick, and I wouldn't be surprised people keep using it.
Yeah.
The box isn't. I don't know, because athletic commission changes based on where you are.
Ah.
So depending on the state, depending on the country, it's it is what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember that I was talking to the great cut man Stitch Duran. I think he may have been there right when you got to the UFC. In fact, I think right when you got there, you had the babysitter to the stars, Burt Watson. I don't know if you remember him, older African American guy, and then you had Stitch Duran, the legendary cut man, Latino guy with the mustache, right? And go ahead.
I was already in the UFC when they were there. They left a couple of years after I joined the UFC.
Right, and they're both great guys. I talk to them. I interview them at least 3 times a year. And I was talking to Stitch because he was working the same corner in a boxing match with the legendary boxing coach Freddie Roach. And I had said, man, there's probably a long time that you guys have probably worked together. And he said, believe it or not, we've known each other for 30, 40 years. First time we worked together. And he said it's an interesting story. He said it was a fight 30 years earlier, and Freddie Roach was in the corner of a guy that was having a really bad time making weight, and he was trying to kind of like let the guy lean on his shoulder when he was on the scale. And Stitch was in the other guy's corner and said, "Hey, Freddie, can you move back a little bit away from the fighter?" And Freddie said, I don't want to curse because I know you're a religious man, but he said, F you, and then finally when they met years later, no, actually he saw Freddie on a talk show years later, and Freddie talked about that and said, Stitch was right. What could I say? He caught me. If my fighter couldn't lean on my shoulder, he wasn't going to make weight, so.
Yeah. That's happened in the UFC as well. That I here and there, these are just some veteran tricks, they call them.
Right, exactly. But so what I think is also interesting with Islam and Charles, had Charles not missed weight and still retained the title, do you think he would have agreed to this fight in Abu Dhabi if he was coming from that position of leverage and power as the champion and said this is either going to be Brazil or United States or nowhere else, or do you think it really wouldn't have mattered?
I'm not sure it would have mattered too much because I know he asked for more money for this, so I think he decided to do this because he got better pay.
Yeah.
So I think if they didn't come to agreement on the contract, I think he would have waited either for Brazil or just not fought in general.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, so these are some really good matches. So Gamrot, we got to watch Gamrot against Arman Tsarukyan, and I remember looking at that fight, and I like both guys, and I remember we're always trying to like make some possible predictions here, and I've been following MMA since it started, and I was looking at that fight, and they had Tsarukyan like 2.5 to 1 favorite, and I remember saying to myself, man, I hate betting and counting on these guys who are under 26 years old, and I know when you started you were young as well, and I think you can see the difference in the maturity you have now than 7 years ago. And I said to myself, it's not that these guys can't fight, but I just had a feeling putting a guy who was 25 in against a guy who was 31 in his prime, the experience difference and the fact that it was a 5-round fight, I just had a feeling that Gamrot would take that fight. And it looked like just the experience, the craftiness, and the confidence kind of helped him there, although it was a really close fight. But would you agree with that analysis? And what did you get from watching that fight?
I mean, Gamrot had fought before 5 rounds. I think that was a lot of experience for ASW. I think that was really the big difference. He really came strong the end of the 3rd round and then the round 4 and 5. Big difference. Well, you could definitely case that he won the fight if we're talking damage. But if we're talking control, Gamrot took over at the end of the third, and kind of followed up fourth and fifth. So it's it was a really close fight. It went the way it went. Like you said, experience really did help Gamrot out. So your analysis is pretty accurate.
Thank you.
Yeah, Gamrot was a lot more game than I expected, I think Arman expected.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think Arman has got a great future at 25 years old. The kid's gonna be pretty darn good unless something goes really wrong. And I think that there was nothing for him to be ashamed of in that fight. But for Gamrot moving up against you, he's not going to have any advantage in experience. He's not going to be fighting a 25-year-old guy who's not near his prime. You're right in your prime. It's a really good matchup, and I think that you've got the power advantage. I think Gamrot fought at 45 a couple times, and that doesn't mean he's a solid 55er now. But I just got a feeling you're the bigger, stronger guy in that matchup, and I think you're both right about the same age in your prime. What are your thoughts about the matchup with Gamrot, at least as much as you want to share?
He's got experience in 5-round fights. I've never been in a 5-round fight. Even though our fight's only 3 rounds, it tells you about his conditioning. He always comes strong as the fighter the fight goes further. So it's a tricky fight for me for sure. I really have to go out there and kind of get after him. I can't really let him take control of the pace. There's a lot that goes into it, and I have to watch more tape on him. But right now, my assessment is just a high-level fighter who seems to have great cardio. He seems to be able to make his strike, his grappling, and I just have to be able to be ready to change from situation to situation.
Absolutely. And then the main event, just as much as people were excited and interested in your matchup with Islam, they're excited about the matchup with Charles and Islam. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on that one, because I'm sure you're excited about it like everyone else. And I just feel like, you know more than most people about both of those guys, just having been around them, being at the same level as they are. And what are some of the things that we can look for that you think maybe the general public or even the educated public might not be thinking about in that match?
I think the fight is going to be about distance. Charles is going to look to find his distance to be very aggressive. So I'm talking about his kicks, his knees, and his combinations, and then using those to force Islam to make mistakes and counter off of those with submissions, things like that. For Islam, it's going to be very much same thing about distance, but defensively, and finding the distance to get the right takedown, being aware of the knees, being aware of the chokes as he's trying to take him down, and once he gets him down, being able to get him in positions that would wear him out. So it's an interesting fight. I right now I have it as a toss-up. Anybody can win that fight, but if we're looking at terms of competition, Charles has fought better competition, so I think that he has that in his favor.
Yeah. Were you surprised that the odds makers seem to have it 2-1 to Islam?
No, I mean the way everyone's hyping him, people think he's going to be the future, but that's just the way our sport is. We jump on the hype train quickly.
Absolutely, and the odds makers sometimes go with it, and the odds makers will frequently lose when they do. The interesting thing is that if you eliminated striking completely, it's an interesting grappling matchup, because you've got Charles, who is so slick, even on his back, wherever he is with his jiu-jitsu. Not only that, he's looking for submissions even on the feet. You have Islam, who comes from that combat sambo background from Dagestan, all that top pressure, and they know their submissions themselves. It seems like they have a lot of preference to submissions from the top and not the bottom, at least the Dagestani guys that I've seen. But if we bring in striking, how do you think their striking compares to each other, and overall, do you think one guy's more confident than the other in striking, and then the skill level of what actually truly is the truth about their striking? What's your thought?
Uh, Obviously, if we're looking at their resume on paper, you would look at Charles and say, "Oh, he's the way better striker." But it's really not that simple because Islam is a defensive striker where he's very aware of his defense, making sure he's always in the right place. He's worried about the counters and things like that. While Charles, on the other hand, is an uber aggressive striker where he's just he doesn't really fight like a champion. He fights like not even a challenger. He fights very reckless almost.
Yeah.
So it's hard to compare their striking, but I obviously on paper you have to say Charles is better. So if they were to do just a striking match, I would definitely favor Charles.
Okay, that makes sense. And the 5-round, I think the 5-round distance favors Charles as well. I think possibly substantially, or do you think it wouldn't be much of a factor?
I don't know because I've never really seen Charles go 5 rounds, and I know Charles slows down, but at the same time. Islam is not one who likes to, go with a crazy pace. He doesn't have that crazy pace. He keeps a pretty. He likes to keep the things at his pace, and it's kind of a calm pace. So it's hard to say. I think it's going to be more about who dictates the distance and who's able to apply the pressure, because the one under pressure gets tired much faster than the one applying the pressure.
Yeah. And it's interesting, Charles seems to be finishing everyone lately, whereas Islam isn't, although he will occasionally. Do you feel this fight is more than likely going to go the distance or not?
No, I don't think it'll go the distance. I think either Charles will get a KO or a submission, or Islam will get a submission.
Gotcha. And it's interesting because with the pressure that the guys from Dagestan put on top, you hardly see any guys going for submissions against them from the bottom. Although I think a lot of that is it just seems like they're not matching up with a lot of jiu-jitsu guys for some reason. It is what they're doing on top. Like, I know they've got a lot of top control. I think Habib always had that Dagestani handcuff. I think if that's what, or handcuffs or something, and then they lock in the leg and but I mean it. Are they doing something that's making it very hard for a good jiu-jitsu guy from the bottom to start looking for anything? Or is it just that they really haven't fought guys high level like that off their back?
I think the mistake everyone is making is not recognizing they're not just Sambo guys.
Right.
They have very good jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
They have very grappling. And what they specialize in control. They're very good at control you from the cage, in the center. Once they're on top, especially when they get you in half guard, the way they hold people, their grappling is very particular to MMA. In jiu-jitsu competition at the highest level, it might not be that effective, but for MMA with the ground and pound, it's very effective. It's tremendous.
Yeah, without a doubt. It's ironic because they have a whole bunch of guys that look very similar to the same guy. I don't know I think possibly with their religion, the guys like to have a beard but no mustache, which is almost kind of a unique look. And, I know the look doesn't mean anything, but it's interesting. These guys literally almost seem like prototypes. You got Magomed Ankaliev, you got, Islam, you got Habib, you've got his cousins, Umar, you've got Hamzat. It's kind of interesting because it literally almost seems like they've got a prototype of guys that are kind of similar. You ever notice that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what that's about. You would have to ask them.
Yeah, that's true. Makes sense. I was sad to hear that Zabit Magomed Sharapov retired. Were you familiar with him? One division below you. He was called the Dagestani Abraham Lincoln. His face was kind of like our legendary president. Remember him?
Yeah, I'm familiar with Zabit. Yeah, it's unfortunate he retired. Obviously, I'm not too familiar with the situation. I don't know too well in detail, but it seems like he didn't really love the politics of the sport, so it's something that kind of rubbed him the wrong way.
Yeah. And guys come back, though. I mean, I guess being that he left when he's 31 or something like that, you know, I would imagine you can come back, although it doesn't seem to happen a lot. But, man, you got to give a guy like that credit, though, because it seems kind of like, you know, leaving the old song from the 80s Eddie Murphy movie, like everyone's rushing to the crowded light. It's hard to leave something you've worked so hard for, and you know, when you're in the spotlight. And I know that's not so important to you, I think, but man, it's like, you know, it's unusual for someone to leave when they're still really, really on top of their game, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. It's definitely unusual, but not everybody has the same desires again, and just the way their outlook of life is different. So that's probably why.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're training over at Kings, and you've got Rafael Cordero still killing it. You got your teammates are Marvin Vittori. Who else is around there that's been helpful to you for what's going to be a camp coming up?
I have Giga, Chikadze, right. I have Urush, Medic. I have a lot of guys. I have guys in LFA. I have guys in Bellator. I have Naaman Gracie. Like there's a lot of guys. You know, it's always it's always tough to go into our gym. Right now, Nasrat Hapcrest is in our gym, and he's a stud. He's an absolute stud. So it's you know, we have a full team.
Absolutely, and a lot of great fights going on. What fights coming up in the next couple weeks are you most excited to watch as a fan, if any?
I would like to see the Usman versus
Leon Edwards.
What's his name?
Leon Edwards.
Leon. I think that's an interesting fight because both guys are very high level. So I do appreciate a good chess match, and I think that's going to be a chess match.
Absolutely. I'm excited about that. And also this Saturday, Amanda Nunes running it back with Juliana Pena. I know that no one has a crystal ball, but people are looking at that fight saying one of two things. Either Juliana's a bad matchup for Amanda and will beat her again, or it was a fluke. Amanda looked a lot, you know, all respect to Amanda, a lot of people say she just didn't show up for that fight. She looked like garbage, like she had nothing. Her cardio ran out. It didn't look like her in there. And I think I watched a couple episodes of The Ultimate Fighter, and I think even Juliana Pena said, show up for this fight because you didn't for the last one. And it's kind of interesting because that way Juliana's kind of taking away the victory when she says that, but I think she's being honest. But what do you think? Can someone so high level like an Amanda Nunes show up not prepared for a fight? I guess it's possible, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's really about motivation. If she's not motivated, no one can force her. Like if you're not motivated, no one's gonna make you go to the gym and go through hell just get to the fight. And it really is. You have to go through hell to get to the fight. So I don't really know her that well or her situation. So it's a tough one.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see, though, because Amanda being the GOAT, if Juliana can beat her again. I'll tell you a funny phenomenon in boxing, Benil. Almost always at a high-level fight, the boxer that wins the first fight is winning rematches like 80% of the time, but not in MMA. In MMA, it really is pretty split. Guys and girls come back and win after losing, and that's one of the things I really like. I wonder why that is. Why do you think that might be in boxing? The guy wins once, always wins again, usually even easier.
They figure out the puzzle. Once they figure out the puzzle, it's a lot easier to deal with that person. You have to understand MMA has a lot more layers to it. Yep. You have the grappling, you have the striking, and then you have just clinching. You don't even have to go to the ground, but you can clinch. So there's a lot more layers in MMA. There's a lot of different ways you can game plan. Even in the striking aspect, you could look at it from, oh, I did too much boxing the last fight. I'm gonna implement leg kicks or high kicks or whatever. Or I didn't do enough knees. I can throw more knees. Oh, I did too much kicks. Focus on my hands so I can save some energy. It's there's more layers in MMA, and that's the difference.
Yeah, I think you're right, and that's a great answer. Another thing, our last 2 UFC main events have ended in fluke injuries. And the first one a week ago Saturday, Brian Ortega trying to just pull his arm out of a submission and having his shoulder get dislocated against Yair Rodriguez, and the other was Tom Aspinall throwing that kick against Curtis Blades. If I can touch on the first one with you, as a jiu-jitsu black belt that you are, and a very experienced jiu-jitsu guy, in looking at that Brian Ortega Yair fight, obviously Yair knows some jiu-jitsu, but he's not a high-level black belt like yourself or like Brian Ortega. So looking at things from the standpoint of the general public, or I'm a purple belt intermediate jiu-jitsu guy myself, we look and we say, when Brian Ortega pulled his arm away from Yair, we were thinking it was going to be like kind of taking candy from a baby. He was like looking and going, denied, you're not submitting me, Yair Rodriguez, come on, don't kid yourself. And it seemed like he was just taking his arm out, and that was that. But could you tell me, was it that Yair actually had a lot of pressure or something locked down enough that made that happen? Was there anything Yair was doing that made that happen, or did it look just like a complete fluke?
I don't think it was anything Yair did. I think I wouldn't be surprised if it was there was a prior injury.
Yes, there is. They actually admitted that he had surgery on that shoulder.
Because that position, there's really no pressure as long as you're putting weight on your opponent. And if there is pressure, it would be on the elbow joint. So I don't think it was what Yair did. I think it was something wrong with Brian's shoulder, and his shoulder popped out, and he couldn't keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the other one, a lot of people look at the fact they feel maybe like Curtis may have kind of checked the kick, although against Aspinall, although I'd have to watch it again. It didn't look like he really checked the kick to me. But what do you think of that? Is that just kind of the fact that somehow he just must have hit the sweet spot? Or is it possible maybe with all the hard training that there was something weakened somewhere in his leg?
Ligament tricky.
Sorry, you got broken up there. Could you repeat that, Benil?
The ligaments are a tricky thing. It's hard to tell what went wrong there. I don't know if he had a prior injury. He didn't say anything.
Right, I don't think so.
And with when it comes to your MCL, ACL, things like that, it's so weird how one little thing could just throw you off. The way Tony, he just tripped over wires from what I heard, and he blew his LCL, or I don't remember if it was LCL or whatever. And some other fighters, I've heard Dominic Cruz I think he supposedly just like turned the wrong way, and his knee went. So it's knees are as amazing as they are, as all the things they do, they're very fragile.
Yeah, absolutely. And the hard training that you guys do is amazing. A lot of people don't get that. I trained stand-up when I was younger, traditional karate, and then I trained a little bit of Muay Thai and jiu-jitsu, mostly starting when I was like your age and continuing after a break when I was in my like early 40s. And I just, I was older, but I was in good shape. But man, I wasn't doing anything near the training you guys do, but it's really tough on the body. I mean, I think people don't get it, how hard you guys train. And I was talking to Chris Lytle, former UFC standout fighter. He's the guy that does the commentary for BKFC, Bare Knuckles Boxing. And I was talking to him about how these MMA fighters are going into Bare Knuckles Boxing in their late 30s and 40s, and why. And he said, you know what, man? He said, it's so much easier on your body. He said, all you're worrying about is punching. And he said, it's like people don't know how hard MMA training is and how rigorous it is and how easy it is to injure yourself, and how hard it is to not injure yourself. But I guess that's something that is really true. There probably isn't any sport that's harder training than MMA.
Yeah, I mean, think of it like this. In boxing, you have a routine where you run, you jump rope, you hit pads, and you spar, and your legs are pretty safe. you're not doing any weird stuff where you're bending your knees in a weird way. And then if you're doing just jiu-jitsu, you've kind of got it figured out onto which way to go and what to do. If you're just wrestling, you have an idea. But because we're constantly changing from one system to another, the body gets worn down, and it's just more likely to get injured. I think MMA is definitely one of the harder sports on the body, especially when you do it as a whole.
Yeah.
If you're just focusing on one aspect of it, I think it's a lot easier on the body.
That makes sense. And speaking about jiu-jitsu, you've been doing jiu-jitsu for what, 15 years or something?
Yeah, since I was 18, so it's been a while.
So after you retire from MMA, do you see yourself as that guy that'll still train jiu-jitsu 2 to 3 days a week, every week? Or do you think maybe you'll do that up until you're 45 or 50, or what do you think?
I don't really know. I haven't thought that far ahead. I think once I'm older, the focus is going to be on my kids. I want to focus on my kids and not so much on myself. I don't think I need to be. I don't have anything to prove once I retire from fighting.
It makes sense, because I think one of the drawbacks of continuing to do hard grappling in your 40s and 50s is it's just, unless you have amazing genetics and are really careful, the propensity to just cause more and more damage to your ligaments and your joints is there. I mean, I have nothing against it, and I love the fact that you can train until the day you die, I guess, if you're Elio Gracie. But I almost feel that, like, if you want to push your luck, keep training hard in your 50s and 60s, and then you may be in a hospital bed in traction, not being able to walk in your 70s, because it's really hard. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's a good assessment. But physical therapy is very important for athletes. That's something I definitely recommend. And you should start in your 20s, not once you're already broken. So start early, keep yourself healthy, and that way you can have a longer, healthier career. And then same thing if you're older. Physical therapy will keep you from getting injured.
Absolutely, it's huge, like that, and massage and everything else. Well, Benil, I think we don't want to keep you longer than we promised, but I want to let people know that your fight with Gamrot is in Abu Dhabi. It's the same night as Oliveira and Makanchev. What's the date on that? Is it October 18th or something?
22nd.
22nd. And so can't wait to see you compete there. Let us know if there's any way that people can support you, if you have any merch, or I know you got your charity. Where can people go to possibly support some of the great work you're doing?
For the charity, it's a mission. It's a mission in Haiti. We do missionary work in Haiti. We have a children's home and a school. You could go to promisechild.org and it's all there. And then I'm not just the fans are enough as far as support. I appreciate the nice messages I get.
Definitely. How's your daughter doing? How old is she now?
She's 13 months. She's doing great.
That's awesome. God bless you, man. And I'd like to see you keep doing well. I think you're destined to be a champion, and can't wait to see it. Thank you so much, man, for taking the time to jump on here. It really means a lot, Benil.
Have a great day.
You're welcome. You too.
Bye-bye.
Good night. Really good guy, Benil Darius, and that was a treat. Yeah. It's very hard and rare to be able to get someone in the top 3 to go and do interviews. Their managers don't usually approve it, and they're exhausted.
More specifically, his managers.
Yeah,
they're the toughest ones to get.
Yeah, you know what I mean. And so this was really nice that because that Benil agreed to come on, because from the beginning, I think, like, he's on a 7-fight win streak now. I think we first talked to him when he was on like a 1-fight win streak.
Absolutely. We have a call coming in here, Colin. We're going to go right into our next guest. Everybody,
let's do it.
Check out the Hannibal TV if you're on our social media, and hit up at MMA Power Hour if you're on Hannibal TV.
Please. All right. There we go. All right, Dustin, can you hear me? Excellent. And
I can.
Beautiful. You're just going to see yourself, but we want to do the video. I know you. So if you can turn on the video, but you won't see me, but we're doing a split screen, and it'll look fantastic as usual. And as long as you're in the frame, you're good. And so let me give you a proper introduction, man. We just finished talking to Benil Darius, and so in keeping with high-level UFC fighters on winning streaks, we jump in to talk to a very high-level UFC light heavyweight, the man they call the Hanyak, Dustin Jacoby. Welcome back to the show, my friend.
Yeah, thank you, fellas. It's good to be here.
Thank you. I still remember, I think it was about 2 years ago, we had you on, and I remember it was your grandmother where you got that nickname because she said you and your brother were running around like wild Hanyaks, right?
Yeah, that is correct.
Nice. And so, man, I'm telling you, this last fight was an interesting one. You're on a 4-fight win streak. Da Un Jung. I was looking at that fight because not only do we do interviews, and it's our priority here, but we then like to break down what we think is going to happen. We've got a team of guys that combined have been watching MMA for like 100 years, you know, and so we're breaking it down. We're breaking it down. We're cheering for you because we've talked to you. You're a real good guy. But a lot of the handicappers were picking your opponent, Jung. And he had looked really good in his last few fights. He stopped someone really good. Let me ask my producer, Dr. Adam Roorda, can you click on Mr. Jung and see who he had fought right before Dustin? There we go. He had beaten Kennedy and Nzechukwu, who we had on our show a few times. And Kennedy's a big, strong guy. And he had come in with some crazy elbows and strikes. Everyone was high on this. And a lot of people were saying, well, this guy's too good for Dustin. And I remember thinking to myself and talking to my producer, I said, man, Dustin's tricky. Dustin's tricky. He's smart. He's crafty, and he's experienced. And I said, I just got a feeling Dustin's got something for this guy. What were your thoughts going into that matchup? I think you were, no, you know what? I think were you a dog or a favorite? It was really close. I think the odds were very close, weren't they?
Yes. So my thoughts were, I knew it was going to be a tricky fight. I knew it was going to be a tough opponent. I knew he was a young prospect that was surging. On Wednesday of fight week, I started as a minus 150 favorite. Mm-hmm. And by Wednesday night, I think I was like plus 105 or plus 110.
Right. You became a dog,
and
right?
Yeah, I pay attention to that stuff. You know, I'm a gambler myself.
Right.
And I was thinking to myself, wow, that's a crazy line movement.
Yeah.
Like I wonder, and people were messaging me, and I saw things on Twitter, and people were asking if I lost a limb.
Yeah.
if I was healthy, what's going on? What happened? And I had a lot of people had me like, I have Jacoby pegged at like minus 200, minus 300. And then there was just a lot of people questioning that. And so there was people that believed in me, people that didn't, you know, it is what it is, man. I went out there and I did my thing, and I proved that, Vegas was right the first time. I should have been the favorite. And, I was very happy to get that win.
Yeah, that was awesome, man. I just, because I honestly think, all your other fights mattered, but I think this was a fight that made a bunch of people say, hey, wait a second, who is this dude? Dustin Jacoby, let me see him. Let me see what he's up to.
Yeah, I agree, man. And before, you're right. Like I had some fights that have been going to decision. It was just a little slump I was in, I guess. I was still getting the wins. So anytime you can grind out a win and get your hands raised inside the UFC octagon, it's a big deal. So I knew the knockouts were coming. That's the type of fighter I am, and I possess that type of power. I had to let the game come to me. And I think I was before just trying to be too perfect, and instead just let the game come to me, and great things will happen.
Absolutely. And I honestly really like it when a guy beats a guy who's like younger in his 20s. Not that you're not young, because you're still young, very young compared to me. But
right.
But I think that sometimes the fans, and maybe it's just the younger millennials or Generation Z guys, somehow just get so caught up in thinking this guy who's 28 for sure will beat this guy who's 35, and it doesn't always happen. In fact, I'd say it's really about 50-50. And I think when you got a guy who doesn't have too many miles on them, like you were in kickboxing, not that you don't have wear and tear on you, but I just think that rather than having 15 years of MMA on your body now, you don't have that.
Well, I have 13, so
yeah, okay, you do.
They are added up, man. But I tell you what, experience is everything.
Yeah.
It's one of my strongest tools, one of my strongest weapons right now that I bring with me into every fight. And I am a veteran. I've had over 50 fights, and I think like 47 pro fights between kickboxing and MMA and boxing. And yeah, man, that experience is big, and it pays dividends.
Absolutely. Now, before you were in the UFC, and you were fighting MMA in other organizations, were you also kickboxing at the same time?
No, I started MMA. I started as an amateur. I had 10 amateur fights. MMA, I turned pro in November of 2010, and by October of 2011, I was in the UFC.
That's right.
So it just happened really quick. I was still so green, still new, still fresh, and I didn't have experience on my side, and it showed. And that's when I lost the 2 fights, got cut, and began my journey outside the UFC.
That's right. I remember now. Your first stint was only like a year and a half in the UFC, and that was at middleweight, right?
Yep. Yeah, correct. I fought the majority of my career at middleweight, but I think the best wins I've had and the best I've ever felt at 205.
Yeah, and it looks like it. And you're what, 6'3", 6'4"?
Yeah, about 6'3.5".
Yeah, because your height is fine for it. I mean, at I know that at middleweight.
Yeah.
Right, go ahead.
Yeah, frame wise, I can compete at 205 all day. I'm as big as the guys frame wise. I'm much quicker than a lot of the guys, and I have really good cardio.
Yeah.
Mass wise, the guys are much bigger than me. I only walk around about 215 pounds, anywhere from 215 to 220 when I'm really trying to put on the weight, but usually about 215, 216. So the guys are much bigger mass wise, but I'm just quicker, man. I have better cardio, and then at 185, I feel like guys were much quicker than me,
right,
and had better cardio than me. So sizes and everything, and at 205, I'm a little bit smaller, but I'm quicker, and I have more cardio.
Without a doubt. And even though you don't have a lot of mass on you, you do look like a pretty big, strong guy. You got good genetics and musculature. You got broad shoulders. You're tall, and so you kind of give an image of kind of a dominating presence, even though you're maybe smaller than these guys. You don't look like a little guy.
Oh, for sure. No, absolutely. And I don't think training with bigger guys, I've never been told that I wasn't strong. So
right.
I can definitely compete with them, and I'm just as strong as them, and I'm proving that. I'm going to be top 10 in the world here by year's end, and I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. And I just realized I made you 1 year older than you are. It looks like on SureDog they have you at 34. Am I seeing that correctly? Is your birthday April 4th? Or?
April 4th, 1988. Yeah, I'm 34 years old.
I love it. I'm not going to say my birthday, but my birthday is April 4th.
Oh, no way. Your birthday, you're April 4th too?
Yep.
Oh, that's super cool, man.
Yeah, I love that.
I have a twin brother who's April 4th as well. So
nice.
Right on.
That's awesome. Got that April 4th power, man. I'm telling the team here, we got to cheer
absolutely.
For Dustin more. We got to cheer for Dustin Jacoby even more, guys. So yeah, man,
that's cool.
I love it, man. Definitely. So a lot of interesting action going on in the light heavyweight division. Your win was great, and then I think in the last couple of weeks we had Kennedy Nzechukwu came in with that win over Baby K, Karl Roberson, and then we had Volkan Oezdemir come in with a win over Paul Craig. Did that one surprise you? Because I you know what, I had a feeling something kind of weird was going to happen in that fight. Paul Craig kept looking so great, but Oezdemir had fought kind of everyone there was to fight, maybe a higher level than Craig, and it seemed like maybe it was a little bit of a weird matchup for Craig, but from what I can tell, most people are feeling like Craig somehow didn't really show up for that fight. What did you think going into that fight as a MMA betting man? And then
I certainly wanted Volkan Oezdemir to win. That's who I want to fight next. Former title challenger, ranked number 9 in the world, just beat number 8 in the world, and before then, Paul Craig was on a pretty good win streak, 5 or 6 fights that he had won. I believe I have the second longest active winning streak in the light heavyweight division, right behind Ankaliev, who fights Anthony Smith here coming up.
Right.
But yeah, so I was really pulling for Volkan, and I was really happy to see him win. And that's who I would like next. And I've been calling for that fight, and hopefully Volkan will accept. And going in there, that's who I was pulling for. I think Craig was a slight favorite.
Yeah.
But I had a feeling that Volkan, had the power to beat him, and he did.
And was what we saw pretty much kind of a result of that, or did Paul Craig somehow not look sharp to you?
No, I think it was a result of that. I mean, Volkan's a former title challenger. He did go through a little hiccup there in his career where he lost a few. But I think he's the better fighter than Paul Craig. Paul Craig's an excellent jiu-jitsu guy, has some of the best ground game in the division, but he doesn't really threaten me as a fighter. I think Volkan is more of an intimidating fighter. Paul Craig, I mean, if you saw, he didn't even commit to his shots. He was just shooting in to try to pull guard,
Yeah.
and realized if when that wasn't working and he wasn't getting his way on the ground, that he really didn't have anything for Volkan. And I don't think he was off. Heck, I thought he fought okay. I thought he landed some shots on the feet. I thought he worked his high kick well, but I just thought Volkan was a little bit better, and he proved it that night.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and did Nikita Krylov fight on that same card or something?
He did, yeah. He knocked out Alexander Gustafsson.
Yeah, what's your
he
thought
looked
there?
good, man.
Yeah.
So and he lost to Paul Craig. Paul Craig
submitted him.
That was a fight. So I think that makes sense for Nikita or whatever Krylov.
The rematch. Krylov.
Yeah, I think they rematch, and Volkan and I, go at it, and I'm giving I just defended my spot against Daeun Jung. That was a risky fight for me.
Yes.
If he beat me, I dropped to 19th or whatever. I definitely drop in the rankings. But I went out there and made a statement that I'm ready to catapult into the top 10, and I want to challenge Volkan Ozdemir and see if he's ready to defend his spot the way I defended mine.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I know a guy who knows a guy who is a big gambler, and he used to be part of the Italian mafia. And I said to my buddy, I said, give him this pick for the fights, and it was you, Dustin Jacoby. And, and I was like, yeah, and I said to myself, please, Dustin, don't lose. I don't want to end up with like wearing cement sneakers at the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so when you finished it like that, I was like, yes.
Yeah, I tell you what, man, I was a little more nervous than previous fights just because, the guy was on a 15-fight win streak. He was, 4-0-1 in the UFC, and he was a big guy, and a lot of people were talking a lot of good hype about him, and he was good.
Yeah.
I just kept saying, man, I'm a little bit better, and those nerves I knew were going to allow me to compete at my best form, and that's exactly what happened. I had a really good feeling about it, and I'm telling you, man, I'm just so mentally strong in this game now, and there's some things that I do to help me with that, and I just you throw that in with the experience and my physical attributes and everything else, man. It's I really think I'm a tough out, and then I have the power and athleticism and abilities to beat anybody in that division.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you what, one thing I've learned as an interviewer is if I hear something, not to comment on it, because one of the things a lot of interviewers will find criticism about is someone says something to them and they just gloss over it like they didn't even hear it. So I did hear you say some of the things you do, or some interesting things you do to keep that mental strength or something. If it's something that's kind of a routine that you want to keep under wraps, we can gloss over that and go and continue on with the line of conversation we're having. But if there's something you would want to share with some of the things you do to kind of keep that strength of mind and focus, I'd be happy to hear it.
Well, I just one thing that I do is, and that we do as a team at Factory X, is we read one book a month, whether it's you physically read the book or you listen to a book on Audible. And I'm more of an Audible guy because it allows me to listen to the book multiple times, to and from training, to and from strength conditioning, to and from anything that I'm doing for my career and work-wise. And it's just really helped mold my mind and build a strong foundation mentally. And we practice physically every day. We take our physical reps, whether it be in the weight room or on the mats. But it's one thing that the past couple of years I've made a point of emphasis of really callousing my mind and getting the mental reps and just strengthening my armor that way. And man, I tell you what, it's something that's really helped me. I guess if you could say that's a little secret power I have, just doing the mental reps. And it's one thing to talk about it and say it, but it's another to do it. And I take that very serious, just as serious as I do going to practice and not missing a session. So I think that's been a big part of my success as well.
I like that, and it sounds very good, and I really appreciate you sharing it. It really is a physiological thing. I think that's one thing I've learned by being I'm pretty much as old or older than the oldest fighter on the UFC roster. I'll put it that way, right? And so one of the things I've learned as time has gone by is there is such a connection, because if you're healthy and your mind is strong and you're positive and you're relaxed and your body's healthy, you know, even if you come through some, you know, some curves in the road thrown at you and some bad days and some bad times, some problems with this or that, all the other stuff puts you in such a better place to be able to take it in stride. But on the flip side, if you're not physically healthy, if your mind is not where it needs to be and your body's not where it needs to be, just the least amount of stress and hard times can make you feel like, you know, jumping off a bridge.
Oh, for sure, man. And it's a daily struggle for everybody, including myself. To just you got to just stay with it. You got to be committed and consistent with the progress, with the process.
Without a doubt. So back onto the light heavyweight division, I'm really excited about it. I think for years and years, people have not been holding the light heavyweight division up as being a super hot division, and maybe going back to the middle of John Jones's reign. And then when Jones jumped out, it's almost like no one was talking about the light heavyweight division. Now, I really think it's starting to come alive. Got people like yourself, even though Paul Craig lost, he's exciting. Nikita Krylov, Volkan Oezdemir, you got Jamal Hill, you got Anthony Smith, Magomed Ankaliev, you got Glover Teixeira, you got Jerry Prochaska. I mean, this is like it's a murderer's row. You must be excited about seeing that, or are you not? Would you rather it was a bunch of guys that weren't that good and yourself?
No, I love the light heavyweight division. I'm super excited. I think it's a bunch of guys that enjoy striking. You know, they're not going to go in there and try to take you down and try to submit you outside of Paul Craig or try to just wrestle you. It's a lot of big guys that are going to go in there and fight. And, you know, with that being said, I feel like I've got a really good opportunity to climb the ladder and take advantage of the matchups that I get and go make a statement, man. I think it's a fun division to be in. It's wide open with John Jones out of the way. And I'm hoping that here one of these times in the near future, I can, you know, get my shot at that strap that's going to be passed around.
Absolutely. And Glover, I think, proved at 42 that, you know, you got some time. When you're a big man at this weight class, you know, you really are probably still in your prime at 34, you know, right now.
Oh, for sure, man. I was talking to a great buddy of mine over the weekend who played, you know, 20 years in the majors. And, you know, your prime, you got your 28 to 34, but your prime to where you're making your big strides and your best days is like 33, 36, 34, 38, just depending on each guy. And, you know, in Glover's case, look at him at 42. So these are the prime years of my life and the best years and the best I'll ever be physically, for sure. So I really got to capitalize here on the next few years of my career and make the most of what's coming.
Absolutely. And I know you mentioned you'd like a matchup with Oezdemir. How does that work? Can you? I guess you could, but would you try to put a bug in the ear of Mick Maynard or Sean Shelby or Dana or what?
I tell you what, the bug's already in there. The UFC loves that matchup. I've already been told by Mick right after my last fight that's the fight that they want to make, and I was so thankful. They said win, lose, or draw, and I was so thankful. I thought if he lost,
right,
I would probably get that fight right away. But with him winning, I hope I still get the fight. They're going to present it to him. You know, the ball's going to be in his court. It's going to be whether or not he's ready to take that risk to the number 14 ranked guy. And what I have to say to that is, you know, at number 15, I just took a big risk myself with Deun Jung. And, you know, the rest of the division is pretty tied up. You got it's tied up, man. So if I call my shot, and which I have, and they know and they love it, it's basically going to be in Volkan's court. And, you know, I sure hope that he gives me the opportunity to take his spot and continue my career. I think it'd be a great fight for the fans, and it's a fight that makes sense.
Absolutely. And after his win over Craig, what do you think he's going to be ranked, 7th or 6th?
No, I think he'll be 8. I think he'll swap spots with Craig. because there hasn't been much movement up
Right.
there, and you got to wait for Thiago Santos and Jamal Hill to fight, and then you got Anthony Smith and Ankaliev. So there's going to be some movement there with like the top 6 guys, top 7 guys, but I think Volkan moves to numbers 8, and I think Paul Craig maybe drops to 9 or 10. With Krylov winning, he might jump up to 9 or 10. So yeah, it's an interesting spot, but there's really just a few of us right there outside the top 7 that could match up, and I think that's the fight to make.
Absolutely, and everyone likes the bigger guys, the light heavyweights and the heavyweights. Everyone loves you guys, and I think a lot of people even like the light heavyweights better, because in the heavyweight matchups, a lot of times it can be a dull stalemate, or you get a minute and a half of action. And not that doesn't happen, because your win was a couple minutes, but I think with light heavyweights, it's like almost kind of like the perfect weight class. You got the big,
I agree,
right?
Man.
You got the big guys that can finish the fight in an instant, but it also can be a really strategic fight. And with guys like yourself that are really athletic, I think that's like the new big man is athletic and quick like yourself. And I think along with your skills, that's why you're having success. Quickly, in the title fight a couple months ago with Glover and Prochazka. I mean, what an epic fight. I mean, you see how UFC is putting individual fights into the Hall of Fame. I really couldn't see that not making it to the Hall of Fame. It was such an interesting fight because it seems like Glover just kept digging deeper and deeper and deeper and was actually looking so good. As an older dude, I was cheering like crazy for Glover to win that fight. And he was so close. One of the things he did, though, that made me wonder, and I'm not questioning Glover's skill because he's by far a better athlete than I would ever dream of being, and I'm not a pro fighter. But when he kind of had Yuri wobbled a little bit, or it seemed hurt a little bit, and then instead of finishing punching, it looks like he jumped for a guillotine or guillotine, whatever you prefer. And he didn't get it. I think it was already in the 3rd or 4th round. They were very sweaty. Can I ask you, what was your thought on that? I mean, we saw AJ McKee do it in Bellator, but it was the first minute of the fight when his guy was dry and he was 5 inches taller than his opponent. But
yeah, I thought it was a terrible decision. I thought that Glover lost that fight because he started grappling. He had the fight won. He had Jerry rocked.
Yeah.
And hurts, and he has to feel terrible. I mean, he was so close to finishing that fight, retaining his title, and he was up on all scorecards. I think it was I was very shocked to see that. It was such a rookie mistake by such a veteran of the sport and a champion, and I'm sure that haunts him every night before he goes to bed. And yeah, I think it was a terrible decision, and I can say that. I mean, even when I'm watching the fight, you would never see me do that. I'm like, what are you doing? If you got him hurt, man, go take him out. And I was surprised to see that. I felt bad for Glover losing that fight, but at the same time, man, he lost that fight. He kind of rookie mistake, gave it up.
Yeah. The only thing I could think of was he was obviously exhausted. He was digging like as deep as he could possibly dig. And I just honestly think maybe he felt, look, this guy's younger and a better striker than me. I'm 42 years old. This guy's 29. He's a better striker. He's fresher. He's recovering quicker. I don't know if I can take him out. Maybe if I try to finish him, he finishes me. And so let me try this. Do you think that was maybe what went through his head, or do you think it was just for the hell of it? He said, you know what, I think I can catch him here.
That very well could have went through his head. He was thinking all of that, but I didn't necessarily see him that down and out. I thought he was in control, and I thought he just made a bad decision.
Yeah, that was unfortunate. So we won't keep you more than maybe 10 more minutes, if that's okay.
You got it.
Awesome. Appreciate it, Dustin. So 2 fights we were just talking about. We've got Smith and Ankaliev. And Anthony Smith is such a tough dude. After he lost to Rakic, who's also in there. I forgot about Rakic. There's all kinds of killers at 205. After he lost to Rakic and Glover, it looked like he was not going to be able to come back. But just like the lion that he is, he's just come back and shown us that he's not done. Ankaliev is a very, very tough guy, and on paper this doesn't look like a good matchup for Anthony Smith. However, a fight's a fight. Anyone can win. Ankaliev has been proven that some people can make him move back, and some people can hang with him. What do you think? I mean, the odds I think are huge. I think it's something like minus 400 Ankaliev or minus 500. Should the odds be that big? And what do you think Anthony Smith can do in this fight, or is there anything?
Well, I tell you what, I mean, Anthony Smith is a veteran of the game. He's got experience on his side. He's been through it to get to it, man. So you can never count a guy like that out of the fight. With that being said, yeah, he's got his hands full. I mean, Ankaliev is he's hungry. He's going after it. Anthony's been there already. He's had the title shot. He's been at the top for a while now. So it's going to be who wants it more, who's hungrier, and we're going to find that out. And I think Vegas has it pinned that Ankaliev is younger, hungrier, and better, and I think that's why the odds are like that. But again, I would never count Anthony out of a fight, and he's been there before. So if there's any guy that can go out there and get the win, I know it's him. And it's going to be a tough fight for him, but it's going to be a great fight for the fans, and I'm expecting a really good fight.
Absolutely. And Ankaliev looks like he's the big man of the Dagestanis, because you got a ton of Dagestanis between 135 and 155 pounds, right?
Oh,
So
for sure. And I've seen him in person at the PI, and he's a very big boy. He's a big man, and one of those guys close to 240 pounds, and
wow.
And has abs, has a six pack, and muscle on muscle. So yeah, he's not 240 sloppy. He's 240 and big. So yeah, man, he's the biggest of all the Dagestan boys.
Yeah, whenever anyone mentions him, they go, "Oh, you mean the big guy?" The big one.
He's the big boy. Yeah. But he's the big guy.
Yeah, those guys are so tough, though, man. I was talking to John Fitch. Remember the UFC fighter John Fitch? Yeah. And John's a good guy. I've known him for years and interviewed him, and he's over there. And I think since he's been retired. I don't know how often he gets to AKA, but he was one of the original AKA guys, and so and so he was there training with Habib and Islam. And back in the day, and I asked him, I said, as a grappler, because John was a D1 wrestler, I said, when are we gonna get enough American grapplers that are going to be able to be as good and effective as these guys, and especially the grappling aspect and grappling for MMA? Or maybe even better. And he said, I don't know that we're going to get a lot of guys better than those guys. He said, we've already got some guys now that are at their level, but he said, these guys, he said the combat sambo structure for a grappler to get into when you're a teenager, or a kid is so great that he said he doesn't know if those guys are ever going to be getting smoked by American wrestlers anytime soon. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, could agree with that. I could see where I don't see that happening anytime soon. But we've got some good wrestlers and some good fighters as well. So, I mean, they definitely have that tough discipline and that background in sambo and judo, and that's impressive too. But I think it all depends. I don't think it's anything that they have that's more special than what we have. I don't know how to answer that really. It's they just got their own special little thing, and they're pretty damn good at it.
Absolutely. I appreciate that, Noah. I wouldn't expect you to say more, because you're up there and you could be facing him. It could be an amazing fight that you could
win. Right, yeah,
for
sure.
So I agree. Speaking about that, I think one of the most interesting matchups we have coming soon with a Dagestani fighter is Charles Oliveira against Islam Makanchev. Man, I mean, tell me that's not a fight that excites you.
Oh, man, I'm super excited for that fight, and I don't see. I think Oliveira opened as a big underdog.
He did. I think Makanchev is about
2-1. I will definitely be putting my money on Oliveira.
Yeah,
100%. I think he's better all around. I think he's bigger, and I mean, I'm a big fan of Oliveira. and he's a guy that's just gritty and really he's been through the ringer. He's been in the UFC for 10, 12, 11, 12 years.
Yep.
Finally becoming champion. I love to see it, and I think mentally he's as good as he'll ever be, and physically as well, man. And yeah, if he stays that I think it was like plus 200, wasn't it?
Yes, right around there.
Oh geez, man, that's got to come down. I got to get on it.
Yeah.
Get in on that early because dude, I'm taking Oliveira all day and then some.
Yeah, I think he's live. I mean, I think he really is live. It's such a good fight. I mean, I think that the difference between him and anyone that Makanchev has been fighting so far is just the level of confidence and experience.
Oh
huge.
My God, yeah. Yeah, I think he beats old boy pretty easy, in my opinion. So
I like that. Yeah. Do you think it'll happen on the feet, or he'll somehow get a top position on Makanchev?
I think anywhere the fight goes, Oliveira's better. I think you can put him away on the feet. I mean, his old boy gonna go try to take him down. Good luck with that. You want to take him down, and Oliveira's a wizard on the ground. So I just see I would bet Oliveira by finish, and certainly just to win.
Nice, and that is going to be exciting, and I definitely think Oliveira is live, and but definitely a tantalizing matchup with Makanchev on a 9-fight win streak, and then Charles on like an 11-fight win streak or 12, and then I don't know if you knew this, but on the undercard you have on that same fight card in Abu Dhabi, you've got our first guest from tonight, Benil Darius, going up against Mateusz Gamrot, and it was supposed to be Darius versus Makanchev, but I think Benil said he broke his tibia or fibula, something in his leg, 10 days before that fight, and I think he had hoped that they would reschedule it, but a lot of pressure, possibly from Khabib Nurmagomedov on Dana White. Give my guy the fight. And the funny thing is, it's not a challenge title fight now, because Oliveira's title was stripped when he missed weight, but it will be for the vacant title. And they're in Abu Dhabi. It's going to be a home cage advantage when people are cheering for Islam. So you almost figure that if Charles is going to win, he better do what you're saying and finish this fight, because with all the people that are going to be cheering for Islam, might be hard for him to win a decision. You think?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see that fight going to decision. I don't even think about that. I think Oliveira wins outright. I think he finishes his fight.
Nice. And I think Benil Darius will beat Mateusz Gamrot. Gamrot looked great against Arman Tsarukyan, but Arman Tsarukyan was a 25-year-old fighter who didn't have any experience in 5-round fights. It was a 5-round fight, and Tsarukyan still barely lost to Gamrot. So I think Benil can beat Mateusz Gamrot. You agree?
Yeah, I would agree too. I think, but again, tough fight for both guys, I think, and I think that one's much closer than the Oliveira fight, in my opinion.
And then Benil against Charles. I've known Benil for 4.5 years, so I will cheer for him in that fight. I know he'll be the dog, but do you think Benil might present an even more interesting challenge to Charles than Makanchev?
I do not.
You don't?
I do not. I think Oliveira beats both of them pretty handedly.
I gotcha. I respect that. Also, last fight we didn't talk about it, light heavyweight. Jamal Hill. We've interviewed Jamal several times. I don't know if you know him, but he's really a nice guy. Jamal Hill is from Chicago, but he's representing my original home state of Michigan now, training at, I think, Black Lion or Black Dragon. I forgot the name. Sorry, Jamal, if you're watching. But he's actually a really, really chill dude. He's all business, but a very nice guy. And that fight with Santos, you figure that Jamal should win, but that's when it's sometimes scary when you're counting someone out. Not only that, I think if Maheta, Thiago Santos, loses too many more fights, he's probably going to get his walking papers. So do you think just pure desire and experience is going to allow him to do anything against Jamal Hill? How do you think that fight plays out?
Yeah, I think he's a dangerous fighter, but I tell you what, there is something about Jamal Hill that I'm not completely sold on, but I can't deny either. There's something about him that he's catching people the right way. I'm sure he's a little bit quicker than he looks like or appears.
Yes.
And obviously has the power. So again, I'm not sold on him, but I'm certainly not denying him or overlooking him because I certainly think he can go out there and catch Santos as well. So yeah, I think Jamal Hill wins that fight. I do take Jamal Hill in that fight, and I think you're right, Thiago Santos. Although he is like a gatekeeper there at the top 5, top 10 for sure, he's got to start winning some fights, man. I'm sure he'll be the next PFL contender,
Right.
Right. So
Bellator or something, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So a fight against Jamal Hill would be interesting for you. Would you ever be down for that fight if the circumstances were right?
Yeah, absolutely, man. That's where we're at. He's up there, and he would be a fun guy to go in there and strike with, and I'd certainly be open to that fight. Because he's above me. He's one of the best in the division, and he goes out there and knocks out Santos. I mean, he's got a case for a fight or two away for the title, and rightfully so. So I definitely see him on the radar here eventually, and nothing personal. We're just at the best of what we do, and may the best man win.
Absolutely. Before he fought Johnny Walker, I really did pick him to win that fight, and he won that pretty quickly and easily. And I asked him, he came on, I think, a week after he won that fight. And I said, man, let me ask you this. And I said, I was analyzing that fight, and I said, Jamal is going to just let Walker come out wild, throw all kinds of crazy stuff. He's going to easily avoid getting tagged, and he's going to come in just with the more polished striking skills, composed, come in and basically piece up Walker. And he said that was exactly my thought before that fight. It was kind of funny, exactly his thought.
What happened,
right? And it was. And so it's interesting because he grew up tough. I know he grew up in a tough street area with a lot of violence around and stuff. And so he's a legit guy. He's got that image as a hard guy, but he's a really sharp guy. Like I really feel like, probably like yourself, that he has really committed to being a student of combat sports and martial arts for quite a while. And so a lot of people, I think, take him as being almost like a crazed big Diaz brother. Not that the Diaz brothers aren't good, but or just maybe he's like a Mike Perry. Like, remember, Mike Perry was an example,
right,
kind of a straight. And I think some people think Jamal is going to be this crazed berserker street guy, and in reality, he isn't. When it comes to what his skills are, he's like a guy that's really calculated and a smart fighter.
Well, I tell you what, I've heard the same thing about him.
Yeah.
So yeah, he must be. I mean, I've heard good things about him, and he's shown me good things in the octagon. So yeah, kudos to him, and I think he goes out there and gets the win.
Absolutely. Well, definitely, I'm excited to see you go on, and I'd love to see that Oezdemir fight. How soon could you be ready for that?
Yeah, so just a little bit later this year. Certainly, October time would be perfect. And yeah, I can't talk too much about it. They've got even a date in mind, so I don't want to get too open, man. I just want to wait for it to happen. Hopefully, it's accepted, and I can get the news out there shortly.
Absolutely. Last question for you before I let you go. This Saturday, the rematch, Amanda Nunes, the Lioness, trying to get her title back. She's about minus 300 or minus 350 even. I think Pena's like plus 260, 280 something. The question this is bringing up is, was that first fight a fluke? A lot of people say Amanda looked like garbage. Her cardio wasn't there. She just looked like something was wrong. She was running around with her daughter instead of training or something. And but a lot of people don't buy that. And I think Juliana agrees that she didn't face the best Amanda Nunes. But what are we thinking here from a top UFC fighter like yourself? Does this seem like the odds are correct, making Amanda about a 3-1 favorite?
Yeah, I believe the odds are correct. If Amanda has been in the gym and working and training and doing what she's supposed to do, that got her that championship belt and helped her retain that championship title for so long. Because I heard the same thing, that she was not in the gym. Her training was pretty lackadaisical. And I tell you what, Juliana Pena is an absolute dog. She's a savage. She definitely has the heart and will and fight to win that fight. But Amanda Nunes should not lose if she is on top of her game, and if she's been training properly preparing, I think that she will go in there and get the title back. But if not, I tell you what, man, Pena she's a savage. She's a tough fighter. She's, those girl fighters, they are, man. They fight to the very end, and the good ones, they're great fights, and they've got some of the best fight in them. And I think Pena is one of those females that she's just a dog. She's not going to go out easy. So hopefully Amanda's been training, and if so, I think Amanda should win that fight. And I tell you what, that first fight, I rewatched some highlights the other day. Amanda caught Pena with some big shots. Pena had one hell of a chin on her.
Yeah.
And she ate some shots that first round, and Amanda got done, and she was done. Or she got tired and she was done. So if she's been training, I think the odds are right about right. But with that value, I would probably put a small little bet on Pena to retain the title.
Absolutely, because that's really the only way to make money with MMA betting is you got to try to catch a dog whenever you can.
Yeah.
You can't just keep betting 3-1 favorites all the time to win, because then you lose one and you lose your bankroll. Yeah, it's going to be interesting, and I think if Amanda wins the fight fairly convincingly, some people may kind of look at the title that Juliana Pena had as a fluke. But may I ask, as a professional UFC fighter, MMA fighter in the UFC, even if Pena loses convincingly, I would imagine most of you guys would still have respect for her having been the champion, even if
totally. I think she earned that title. She was the champ. Now it's important to, once you get it, to be able to defend it one time. But she earned that for sure. I have respect for her, and like I said, man, she's a freaking dog. She took a beating that first round, and she did not go away, and she kept one foot in front of the other, and she came back and won that fight. So I have a ton of respect for her, and may the best woman win. I think that'd be a great fight, and I'd probably even lay a small little amount on Pena as well.
Absolutely. It's going to be good. Well, I could ask you a ton more stuff, but I don't want to take any more of your time. Is there anywhere, a website, you got any merch, anything you want to let people know that we can do to support the cause of Dustin the Hanyak Jacoby in your march to greatness in the UFC?
Yeah, man, I appreciate you. I don't yet. I need to. I'm got a little something in the works with my management company that we're trying to get out there to get some merch. So stay tuned on that. But yeah, you can find me at the Hanyak DJ on Instagram, Twitter. That's where I interact with fans the most. Special thanks to my team at Factory X and Landau Performance and Iridium Sports Agency, my agency. A couple big sponsors of mine, Fit Soda and Koyos Beverage, an up-and-coming healthy drink, energy drink, and tequila, El Bandito Yankee Tequila, which is a startup tequila company. I want to say thank you to those guys. Check them out, 2 startups. And have me on the show again sometime. That'd be great.
Absolutely. Look forward to it. Hey, if you find out you got the Uzdemir fight or anything else going on, man, I'll be looking out for it. Hit me up if you want. I know you have a lot of stuff going, but anytime, man, we'd love to talk to you again.
It sounds great, buddy. You have a good night.
You too. Take care. Bye-bye. And that was the Hanyak, Hanyak. The Hanyak is his nickname, Dustin Jacoby. And what a good guy, man. Very knowledgeable guy. Always a great interview, isn't he?
Yeah, always a great interview. Great dude. Listen, these are 2 of the better dudes, honestly, in all of MMA.
Yes.
And I just really recommend everybody go out there and follow these guys, get involved in their fights, literally pay attention to their careers, because they are very solid dudes, and not just that, they are very, very talented. So
yeah, really, really great fighters and great men and great people. And I think they deserve to be supported and cheered for. And Benil, I think we first talked to him, he was ranked something like number 23 or something, and now he's either 2 or 3 depending on what ratings chart you look like. Dustin, we talked to him 2 years ago. I think he was ranked number 41 or something, or 37 or something, and now he's 14.
Right.
And so these men have been climbing and climbing and climbing and fighting and fighting. get to where they are now, and they're keeping on going. So yeah, absolutely, big respect for both of them. You guys definitely should cheer for them and watch them fight. They're amazing, talented guys, great warriors, without a doubt.
Yep, absolutely. Hey, Human Manipulation Nation. Yeah, we are. I am absolutely a nerd. Colin's absolutely a nerd, and I guarantee you, I absolutely have a bigger paycheck than you do. So shut the fuck up. This is not a day to come in around here and start doing that shit.
No, exactly. Idiots.
Also,
dickheads.
Yeah, if you want to be a dick, let's just get down to it.
Yep.
You have your head in the sand, and you need to just not be a dick.
Yeah, exactly.
So
it's weird. It almost, it's funny because I'm a generation before the internet, and like people didn't talk shit to each other like this, but the internet just it seems to me like the internet super highway of information is what has made most of us happy in its existence. But it seems to me also that a certain people with character disorders have found great joy in the internet and being able to antagonize people and in essence shit on people. And it's like, in all honesty, shame on you. If that's something that you're excited.
Yeah, it's somebody. Just so you guys are aware, it's a troll that came in here, and it's just not a good day.
No,
I'm just not doing it.
No, exactly.
So.
And yeah, exactly. So in reality, karma's a bitch, and in these tough times that we have, we need to be spreading good karma.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't, Adam and I are not wishing you go to hell or die in a plane crash or anything, but you're bringing bad shit on yourself. So,
you are bringing bad shit on yourself.
So,
I mean, ultimately, that's what it is.
Yeah. Exactly.
And if you want to come in here and call me a nerd, go ahead. You start calling derogatory terms for anybody else besides me.
Yeah.
You know what? No, I'm not doing it.
Thanks.
And I may be some skinny, scrappy little dude, but I'm still not doing it.
No, exactly.
So don't come in here and just troll away, guys.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, it's on the note of these last two guys that we had on here. Absolutely upstanding citizens.
Yes.
And you wouldn't hear any kind of language like I just came from at least one of them. So yeah, there's that. But
good gentlemen. Yeah, that's it. Both.
Everybody, make sure to check us out at MMA Power Hour. We have been doing this for quite a while now, and it's
5.5 years.
It's 5.5 years now of doing this. I absolutely gotta love it. And Colin, I've got to go ahead and tap out here. I'm going to hand this over to you, but let's call it a night.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Adam Roorda, for everything you do, man. I really appreciate you. Ladies and gentlemen, in order of appearance, we had Benil Darius first. Thank you so much, brother. Huge respect for you. Appreciate you coming on. And our second guest was Dustin Jacoby. Thank you so much for coming on, brother. Huge respect for you, too. Thank all of you guys for supporting us. Haters, gonna go hate yourself. For the people that support and care and that feel that we're entertaining you and bringing you good information, that's what we want to do, and we really appreciate your support. It means so much. Go out and spread the love in a positive way. Be that guy, be that girl. Treat yourself with love and be more gentle. Love your pets. Make sure they have cold water, fresh food, medical care they need. It's so important. The unconditional love you get back a million times over, and nothing like the love of a pet. That's it. So for the entire team at the MMA Power Hour, hope you enjoyed the show tonight. Coming at you next week. This is Colin Crandall, and tonight I'm tapping out.